I'm Mary, aka MercyTriumphs, and this is my channel Slow Crochet. This episode is number 020, and today I am starting a series on hero hooks. Now, I am a straight aluminum hook kind of person. I like tapered hooks. I do not do well with inline. I've never really tried anything else, and this is what I've always enjoyed using, so if it ain't broke, why fix it? But recently, I acquired some vintage Hero brand hooks. Now, Hero apparently is no longer being produced, but Crystal over at Bag O' Day swears by Hero hooks. They are her favorite. And so when I was finally able to get my hands on some, I was really excited to try them out. And I wanted to see, is there something about Hero hooks that makes them better than the standard boy that I'm used to? Boy hooks are pretty easily accessible where I live here in the States. You can find them at Walmart, you can find them at craft stores, and they're really straightforward and they're pretty affordable. But Heroes are starting to become more rare and more desired. And so if you do happen to find one, I'm wondering, are they worth the extra premium for the fact that they are vintage? So I'm hoping to put out a series of videos where I'm looking somewhat scientifically at the shape of the hook, at how it performs with different types of yarn and in different applications. And I really want to answer the question, are they worth this kind of mythical status? And I hope that you will come along for this adventure because I'm curious to know the answer just as much as you. Welcome to the inaugural run of the Hero Size I Vintage Made in the USA hook. I'm going to be trying this out on a row in my afternoon at Pemberley dress, and I'm going to keep a stitch marker here so I know where that was, but this is a DK weight yarn. It's 100% cotton, and I already have some project here. Now, I have not used this hook at all, so this is going to be the authentic first impression. Remove the stitch markers, work on my tension, and so this is also an opportunity for you guys to see how I hold my hook and how I hold my yarn. All right, so the shape of the head is definitely more blunt than my standard boy hook, and so I can feel that. I feel as it's going in, there's a little bit more pressure to get that slightly wider head into the stitch. But I remember that Crystal has said in the past, like she'll be talking about yarn or giving yarn reviews and saying that certain yarns are splitty, but she doesn't seem to have a problem with that. And I just got a little snag just there, but on this hook, it's flattened off at the end instead of a point. And so I can feel how the yarn is almost, it's not really a proper corner, but it kind of is. Can you see that? Can you see how it's almost like a trapezoid shape? I'm gonna have to go more into detail. I'm gonna do a whole breakdown looking at the differences between the hooks themselves, not just how they perform. I almost feel like the yarn is getting a little bit snagged on those corner, like it might hit the corner and then have to slide in, versus on the boy hook that I'm used to, it just, like the taper is so solid, it's so continuous that the yarn can just slide, and it doesn't really have any kind of, not that there's an edge per se, like it's not like a squared off corner, but it is something a little bit noticeable. Now, Crystal will say that if she doesn't have a size that she needs in Hero, she will use a boy. And so I think they can be interchangeable. But there seems to be this kind of mystique around around Hero hooks. So I'm just trying to see, does this feel like a qualitatively different experience? I can tell a difference, but it has to do with the shape of that head. I'm gonna get all the way around and I will meet back with you. And I've made it partly around, and I'm actually gonna switch from the hero to the boy because I'm noticing that that little catch is happening, and I'm wondering if it's going to be replicated in like the more smooth, almost conical shape of the boy, which is what I'm used to. Now, one of the benefits of this particular pattern that I'm working is that it is a combination of chains and doubles and some singles. So I can already feel the difference, and it could just be what I'm used to, but I think that more conical shape of the head, like of that point on the hook, I'm not finding that it's catching the way that it was on the hero. So I'm gonna keep going. Now, in an effort to be completely fair, I'm going to attempt to use just the hero hook, and this time I'm just gonna work in this pattern. It's a 2-row repeat, so I'm just going to work the shell row. Some time has passed, and a little bit of life intervened, so if the lighting is a little different, that's why. But I did make it all the way around. I did end up at the very end doing the last shell in the boy, just as a comparison, and felt immediately different. I could feel ever so slightly that the boy was slightly wider. So again, I'm going to go back and figure out a way to measure that to see exactly what a hero size eye, what the millimeterage is on that. The stitch pattern I was doing was 9 double crochets and then a single. And so I was trying to figure out, could I feel a good rhythm with it? And I have to say, and I think this is why, with the hero hook, there's kind of like an indentation in the hook part itself. You can kind of see it catching in the light, versus the boy, which is just kind of smooth. So from profile, as it's going, can you see the slight difference here? Like there's this little indentation in here. And so what I found was happening was the yarn could slip really easily into here, and I felt like once I hooked it, I had a lot more control over it, versus in the boy, I mean, it wasn't a bad experience at all, but it felt a little bit bigger, and I felt like I had a little bit less control. So I was able to kind of mitigate that feeling that I was initially having with the yarn kind of catching on the edge here of the hero, and doing a whole bunch of shells. I could really get into a rhythm of it. And furthermore, you can see on these two that there's just a slight difference of where the thumb hook hold is, if these were equal at the top. So for the size I hero, it's just maybe like 5 millimeters higher, or like 1/4 inch higher. And so for me, because I have fairly small hands, I found that I was actually holding it a lot more easily. It actually felt better in my hand, such that when I switched for that last shell to the boy, I actually felt the size difference. So maybe with use, this one is winning me over. We'll see. But definitely having that longer time doing a bunch of shells, that was worked in the favor of the hero. So, emotionally, how do I feel? Well, I love my boys. Why? That's what I'm used to. I can feel things slip easily. I really do think that as I was pulling loops through, I wasn't getting hung up using the boy. Now that could just be because I've used it so frequently. I'm used to that shape. However, I was using a DK weight cotton yarn, and so there isn't a whole lot of stretch and give to that. So that yarn might be better adapted for that shape hook. So am I in love? Was it love at first stitch with Hero? Well, maybe not. And maybe that's because I'm trying to go at this in as objective a manner as possible. I'm thinking about my experience. I'm not necessarily feeling it. And I'm also recognizing that I have some established biases in how I hold my hook and how I hold my yarn. I like it. I'm going to keep using this hook, and I'm going to use some others by Hero. I want to figure out more if there is something unique about this that people just love. Are these really the best hooks that ever have been, and it's a travesty that they're no longer in production? There aren't some art supplies I know of where there was such a cult following in that craft for this particular supply that they were able to get the company to restart. And, and some of those products have actually been in my house because I'm not the only creative person in my family, let's just say. So all that to say, it wouldn't be unheard of if crocheters were so adamant that there is nothing like a Hero that we are gonna raise awareness and try to figure out how to get Heroes back in production. We could demand them, right? Power of the people, or power of the pocketbook. Is it worth it though? Right now, my first impression is like, maybe not. I do appreciate that it is an alternative to Susan Bates and Boy, because I love a good tapered hook. I find that with inline hooks, you can make them out of wood, you can make them out of bamboo. It's a shape that's easier to replicate in other media. But to make like a hand-turned tapered hook would take a lot of skill and to size it properly. So the fact that these can be made in aluminum, to have an alternative to just one tapered aluminum hook is a really great thing. I want to do as much of a scientific adjacent deep dive into these as possible, because this is a really interesting thing. How do the shapes and forms of the tools we use affect our experience? Now, I'm sure that these companies have done market research, and I'm sure that there is lots of engineering behind it, but how can I as a consumer understand how this all plays out? Ultimately, I think it will come down to personal preference, and maybe there isn't one hook that's good for all projects. We shall see. I'll get into it, and I look forward to doing more of this in the future. So that's it for now. I will be looking at different Hero hooks. I do have a steel one that I picked up. I have some longer ones, perhaps for some Tunisian crochet. And I also want to look specifically at any information I can find about how these heads are designed, how the hooks are designed, and really give more of an in-depth pseudo-scientific look at the differences here and how those differences play into how the hooks perform when we're working with them. If these Hero hooks are as rare and as wonderful as they're touted to be, are they worth really searching them out or finding them or paying extra money for them? I want to give you both my subjective thoughts on it and also maybe some objective information to help you make that decision. So if you have enjoyed spending your time with me today, thank you so much. All of the likes, shares, comments, and subscribes are very encouraging. I love interacting with you guys as I nerd out about crochet hooks. If I'm not your cup of tea, thank you so much for listening this long. I do hope I'll see you again. Bye.